What's good, people? I'll tell you what's good. The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Emerson Lancia. Julian Edlow, top of the morning, feeling jacked.
Hello.
Josh, how are you, dude?
I'm doing good. I think we're going to have a good day today. You got a haircut. You're looking sharp, my man.
Thank you so much. Look at this.
I didn't.
3 beard guys.
And you cleaned up the beard, too.
Yeah, you know what? I'm pulling it off, baby. And so are you two. And for the next 2 hours, we're going to bring you all of that betting goodness that you love and that you crave. Our top menu options this morning. Don't mind if I do. We're breaking down the top games on this college football slate, including 2 premier top 10 matchups with major playoff implications. One that may or may not include Jim Harbaugh. That whole situation is a mess, isn't it, Josh? How to get an edge betting this weekend's NBA slate, plus which players to target on the ice to help complete your money-making lineup. Let's kick things off, though, by working up a sweat.
All right.
Jules, all right. This is like you clanging and banging in the gym, baby. You tell
Doesn't happen very often.
You tell me what has you working up a sweat, and why is it Oregon football hosting USC?
Quack, quack.
Quack, Mr. Ducksworth.
Ducks fly together.
I was an early season Washington backer in the Pac-12. I have reverse course if you've been following along. I love the path for Oregon to both get to and win the Pac-12 title game, and it starts with dominating this USC defense. So last week, Oregon at home making a statement. They dropped 63 on Cal. They're at home again against one of the worst defenses in the country in USC. You just saw them give up 52 at home to Washington. I think this Oregon team is in position to just put their foot on the gas and keep it there. So you see the Pac-12 title odds there. We're looking at a team that's already laying 165 in the Pac-12 title game with a undefeated Washington team still there on the board. So I'm just isolating this to the team total. If you want to lay points with them or play the game total, whatever. But Oregon team total, it was 44.5 earlier in the week. It's getting bet up throughout the week, whatever it is, up to like 47.5 or so. I'm good with it. This should be a spot where the Ducks get into the 50s and keep making statements all the way to Vegas when they play the Pac-12 title game.
That over 77, Josh, is a monster. My God.
It's a huge total here, and I think Julian's excited too. He came in with an Oregon Ducks blazer today, so I think he's feeling Oregon Ducky. But I would say that total did rise.
Vegas too.
Yeah, it was 73.5 earlier this week. Is that what you said?
Up to 77.
Yeah.
USC just gave up 52. They're 9-1 to the over this year. Maybe get some points in this one.
Listen, USC just fired Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator. So,
but this isn't one of those like fire the defensive coordinator and rally situations.
Really?
They don't have the player.
You don't think that offers a spark to them?
No. They don't have the players to play defense. The players physically don't tackle. I don't know why. Whoever's stepping in, I don't even know who it is because I don't care. I don't know why that person is going to make them start tackling or playing better. They can't.
I'm with you, Julian. And again, they gave up 52 last week. Maybe that was why Caleb Williams was crying in his mom's arms. Can I get some defense around here? That's what
they gave up 49 the week earlier to Cal.
You know who's crying right now? Crying tears of joy? Blackhawks fans, Chicago Blackhawks fans. You're working up a sweat this morning, Josh, and well, I don't know. For the next 15 to 20 years on a regular basis, we're going to be hearing, Connor Bedard had himself a night. Why are you working up a sweat with the rookie in the NHL right now?
So I'm working up a sweat on Connor Bedard, or Connor Bedard, as we like to say, as we come from Boston here. But a couple things. I want to start off the program with a futures bet. So futures, to me, I think it's a bet that you have to have a little bit of patience with. You know you're not going to cash it overnight, so you got to have the liquidity in your bankroll to not bet too many futures. That way you don't have any money here to bet on a day-to-day basis. But last week, Emerson, I talked about Victor Wembanyama, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
He was minus 340 last Saturday. Now he's minus 400. So the whole point being, even if these numbers might seem a little high to you, if you get out ahead of them, you can still beat the closing line. So went from NBA last week. Let's go to the NHL. Connor Bedard, Rookie of the Year. He right now is minus 175. That's an implied probability of 64%. And I think this could be kind of that Wembanyama or Shohei Ohtani effect where this guy is looking really good. He just had his best performance as an NHL player here. It was a 5-3 win over Tampa. He had 2 goals, 2 assists.
Numbers moving on you, Josh.
It's moving, man.
Josh,
so get it in now.
Good.
Get it in now because, again, you bet 100. Let's put in perspective. You bet $100 on this right now, you get around $57 back. Doesn't sound like great value, but Emerson, $57 that you could make. That could, get you some.
I mean, you're talking to a 92-cent bonus
or
bet
more.
guy.
That's like 70 units for this guy.
So it's definitely doable.
Is.
Again, I think you're going to get some closing line value here. It's all about kind of projecting where this is going to go. Minus 175 now. Give it a month. Give it 2 months. This could be minus 300, minus 400. Could close over minus 1,000. He had a quote the other day, Emerson, that really spoke to me. He said, I felt like there were games where I have created more than this and had 0 points. That's how things go sometimes. It feels like I'm now getting on the scoreboard. So I think he's getting more comfortable in the NHL. He's putting up points. This number is going to skyrocket. His next closest competition, Logan Cooley, plus 650. So no one's in his ballpark here. I think you hit Connor Bedard right now. That minus 175 might grow, and I expect it to.
Now with the 7 goals, 11 points on the season, that leads all rookies and Blackhawks skaters in both categories.
Or if you don't want to pay that juice, you just parlay him with Victor Wembanyama to win Rookie of the Year. You got your winner right there.
All right, that's tasty.
I don't know hockey, but that's just an idea.
Let's do that,
basketball.
Julian.
You know Sticky Puck, Julian. All right,
I don't know.
We're going to talk
Pucks.
a lot more NHL coming up in the show with Jeff Ulrich and
Not me.
Ardua of NHL.com. Julian will not be part of that segment, but we are touching them all here as we work up a sweat. So week 1 of the college basketball season is just about in the books here. You are a college basketball guy,
Can do
Jules.
that.
So what's been the biggest surprise, or what has been your biggest takeaway here a week into this thing?
Well, if you did tail my plays last night, you would figure that I do not know anything about college basketball because I backed in some fashion 4 home teams, with the thought process being it is really hard to go on the road the first week of the season on a Friday night on a college campus and get a win. And who did that? Arizona's 5.5-point dogs got a win at Duke. Really impressive win. That's a big Duke team. They start 2 7-footers. Arizona dominated them on the glass at Cameron Indoor. So there's that one. We saw A&M, Josh, get the win. Ohio State took a lot of sharp money. A&M gets the win at Ohio State. Missouri was my favorite bet last night at home against a Memphis team that lost a lot. They brought in some transfers, yeah, but their big man, their 26-year-old center, Josh, ruled ineligible,
Should be an age limit
as
on
he
college,
should be,
yes.
right before the start of the season. That's like Emerson playing college basketball and getting another year
What?
of eligibility. But they were up 29-15 in that game and lost by double digits. Who else am I forgetting about? BYU did get the job done against a ranked San Diego State team. Wisconsin was that sharp, unranked team near a pick against a highly ranked Tennessee team. They lost handily at home. So some big road wins the first week of the season on a Friday night was my takeaway, whereas I put a lot of stock in both college football and basketball in terms of being at home.
I mean, shout out to James Madison, upsetting, Michigan State. James Madison, at least on the football side, not going to be college football playoff eligible. I really, truly believe they should take Michigan out and put James Madison in. But anywho, what's been a big surprise for you in the college basketball season so far?
Yeah, the Duke's obviously biggest upset thus far, but I think to Julian's point, I took a bad beat yesterday, or just kind of a tough play. I really liked Ohio State at home. They had a sharp line move against Texas A&M. A&M was ranked. The line went to Ohio State, didn't come through. So the whole point being, I think you got to just be prepared when you get to college and you start the season for a lot of unpredictability, a lot of variance. So I think in that regard, you may want to lean a little bit on some dogs because we see these upsets. Like, for example, that Arizona-Duke game kind of had a line freeze there. Duke was the popular bet. They're getting around 65% of bets using our VSiN.com bet splits coming from directly from DraftKings. However, that was pretty much a Duke minus 5.5, minus 5. Didn't really move at all. So that told me that even though the public was on Duke, there's some liability there on Arizona plus the points. So that would be my takeaway, Emerson. Don't be afraid to go contrarian. Don't be afraid to take that team getting 20% of bets, especially if the line's moving in their favor. And I was also looking at, when a season first starts, Emerson, like any quick early favorites are killing it, or dogs or overs unders. I noticed this, overs to start college basketball this year. I know it's a very small sample size, but they're 85 and 56, 60%. That's a 15% ROI. You're up 21 units playing these overs. So maybe the fact that we're seeing a lot of offense, more variance, could be something to lean on as you kind of get ready and get into the kind of the groove of getting back to college hoops.
I mean, Arizona and Duke, Jules, that was really the first marquee matchup of the season. And I know today, not a huge slate, not super sexy, but does this give bettors an opportunity? Can you take advantage of a slate that isn't as jam-packed with marquee matchups like this?
For sure, especially if you're paying attention. I don't have anything personally in college hoops today, but if you're paying attention, especially to the smaller markets, the smaller conferences, that's where you're going to do really well. So, if you feel like you have something, then absolutely go with it. People are going to be paying attention to college football today, to NFL tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's tougher to set those lines, particularly for small conferences. But we are going to get more heavyweights on Tuesday night. We have the Champions Classic in Chicago. Duke, once again, playing a highly ranked team. Michigan State will obviously drop in the rankings after that loss, but Michigan State and Duke starts it off, and then Kansas and Kentucky is the nightcap. So those are going to be really good games that we learn a lot more about these teams early in the season.
All right, Josh, any moves today on the college basketball slate?
Don't love the college hoops slate today, Emerson. To put in perspective, you know what the most heavily bet game of the day is in college hoops?
What?
Fresno State, Kent State.
Oh,
I mean, not exactly
love that.
a Kentucky Duke game, but there was a move toward Kent State. They were -1.5. Now they're up to 3.5 at home. I'll give you one here, Emerson, that caught my eye. It's an early game, 11 o'clock. Texas State. They're on the road at Miami, Ohio. They went from a +1 dog to a -2 favorite. Angle here, both teams are 0-1. It's a very low bet game, yet we're seeing a line move that caught my eye. And right now you're only getting 45% of bets, but 65% money on Texas State here. So Ken Palm's got them ranked higher. Big rebounding advantage for Texas State. I'm money lining Texas State early.
All right, guys, we got to poke over to college football. That's coming up after the break. The spicy sign-stealing scandal just got a little spicier ahead of Michigan's crucial clash with Penn State today at high noon. How Jim Harbaugh's sideline absence will impact the Wolverines' chances. Back here on The Sweat, everybody. It is good to have you here on The Sweat. Let's turn our attention to college football right now because the playoff race thickens with several top 25 matchups today, highlighted by top 10 meetings between Ole Miss and Georgia and Penn State and Michigan. Now, a lot of news coming out over the last 12, 13, 14 hours or so with this whole sign-stealing scandal thing. Whether Wolverines coach Jim Harbaugh, Jules, will be leading his team onto the field is in the hands of a judge early this morning, okay? So hours after the Big Ten banned Jim Harbaugh from coaching the rest of the regular season, so we're talking 3 games here, as punishment for the sign-stealing scheme, the coach in his alma mater filed a request for a temporary restraining order against the Big Ten and its commissioner. Now, their attorneys asked for a speedy decision that would allow Harbaugh to coach against the Nittany Lions today that kicks off at noon. This is a freaking mess right now. But earlier this week, Harbaugh was asked how players are handling all of this off-field drama.
What I've seen of our players, I think, what they do, no matter what happens, what it is, what emotion they're feeling. List one of the adjectives. I mean, they just work. They want to find some work, do some work. Something could be in their personal life. Something could be, in the game of football or school. Some kind of stressor or whatever, and you just go to work. Find some work, create some work for you to do. It clears the mind, it cleanses the soul, and a lot of times you get the clarity you need. Not every time, but a lot of the time you get the clarity you need, and bang, that's where we go from here.
Cleansing of the soul. That sounds
great
good.
Philosopher, Jim.
I'll have that. Yeah. So he said players are just going to work, but it looks like the Michigan team had something to say on X, formerly known as Twitter, last night. Multiple Michigan players, including quarterback J.J. McCarthy, with either a coded inside message here, bet, or a cry for Julian and Josh to help him out.
I was going to say, I think he's just tweeting about my Saturday.
Listen, just don't do the cheesy hold-up of number 4
They're gonna.
To honor like Jim Harbaugh. He's not dead. He's suspended. You had Tom Brady quoting J.J. McCarthy last night too, saying the same thing, bet. But either way, Jules, we finally get to see the Wolverines here face a ranked team and on the road. So my first question for you, what impact have you seen this having on the market? Potentially no Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines today.
Close to none,
okay.
Right, Josh? I mean, Penn State's touched 4. Maybe some people put some Penn State bets in when the news came in. Some books go down to 4. I know we were at 4 for a period of time.
All right.
But it's essentially untouched. And, I agree with the market. Harbaugh's still there for the week. He's just not on the sideline. The team will be as prepared as they were going to be for the game. So it's really a non-factor for me. And even if this thing holds up the whole way out, he's going to be with the team throughout the week. So, the Ohio State game should remain unchanged.
Okay.
So it really doesn't do much for me other than that, I feel like I'm watching an episode of Law & Order with you reading off the situation to start things off. So
it's definitely a pain. I mean, it's just as difficult. It feels just as difficult to keep up with this as it is like that in-season NBA tournament.
Put it this way.
Anywho.
I bet Michigan preseason at plus 210 to win the Big Ten. I'm not changing anything that I would have done otherwise.
All right, so now, Josh, maybe no Jim Harbaugh today. We'll see what this judge decides. So maybe he is there at high noon. Either way, Joel's made a good point. He's just not on the sideline. He's been with the team all week. How realistic of a shot do the Nittany Lions have here?
I think you definitely have a shot here in this one. And I'll just say this, Emerson, if the Patriots get rid of Belichick, I think they found their new coach. Guy who plays offense, who coaches offense, and likes to steal signs, do whatever he can, cheat to make it. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But
buddy.
That was just a little joke here, of course. But I like the Nittany Lions in this one, Emerson. Now this game opened around -5. At one point, it did get up to Michigan -6.5. But you did see a steady buyback there, and kind of an inflated line here for Penn State, bringing it back down to like 4.5. We're kind of sitting at that 4.5 number right now. I did see one book go to 5. Obviously, you're going to have to kind of go through this really annoying situation of will Harbaugh coach or not. I think you can say it won't make a lot of difference, but I think it might make a difference because if you look at how basically the Michigan has performed with and without him, first 3 games didn't have Harbaugh. They went 0-3 against the spread. Didn't cover a single number. Once he came back, 4-2 ATS. So obviously you want your head coach there not just as a motivating factor, but calling plays, calming down the players on the sideline. So obviously you're going to have to stay glued to Twitter to see if he will be on the sideline or not. But to me, Emerson, this is just kind of an inflated line, little buyback and bit of a contrarian play to take Penn State. Right now, Penn State is only getting 24% of bets. The public doesn't care whether or not Harbaugh is on the sideline. They're hammering Michigan here. It's hard to blame them. Michigan has looked awesome. The one thing that scares me a little bit, we did this a few weeks ago, James Franklin, I think it was against Ohio State. He's only 7-10 against the spread against top 10 teams. He's 2-15 straight up against top 10 teams, so he hasn't done well when he plays good competition. And if you do like Michigan, 2 ranked teams face off, take the favorite. The favorites are 20-9, ATS 69%. But in the most heavily bet game of the day, and the handle on this game, Emerson, it's like an NFL game. There's no other game close to it today. With all this action, everyone going Michigan, I got to think I'm going to go contrarian here with Penn State. I'll hold out for a +5.
Because Michigan's soft schedule up to this point. At least Penn State has been tested like once or twice. But, Jules, like James Franklin in the Big Ten, Lane Kiffin has had his wealth of success beating lesser teams in the SEC, but he's also struggled to take over that league with massive victories. So the Rebels, who are just 1-5 here against top 10 teams during Kiffin's time as head coach, gets to face second-ranked Georgia today. What is your bet in this one?
Yeah, they got a big home win earlier in the season over LSU, a high-scoring game against an LSU team that just doesn't have a defense. Now you're going to be on the road against a team that does have a very good defense. So I think we see Georgia keep on rolling here. This isn't a game that I have taken a side on, but at 10, maybe you could interest me in Georgia. The number's spot on. I think that this tells us more about the future of the SEC, which we're going to talk about. It's really up to Alabama and Georgia just not to lose games as double-digit favorites the rest of the way, and they'll meet in the SEC championship game. And that is a game I will be very interested in betting.
Okay, can Kiffin cover today, Josh? Georgia 2-6, I believe, ATS this season, plagued by some slow starts.
I actually like the points with Kiffin today in Ole Miss. Kind of a line freeze play. A line freeze is when you have heavy betting on one side, yet the line doesn't move at all. So that's pretty much what we've seen here. Georgia getting around 2/3 of bets. I think they're getting like 64% of bets at DraftKings. Yet Georgia opened -11. They pretty much stayed -11. Never really went up to 12. There are actually a couple shops right now that are juiced up. Like it may get down to 10.5. So if you do like the points with Ole Miss, you probably want to grab it right now. They lose by 11. You want to push that bet, not lose that bet. A couple of reasons also to like Ole Miss. They're a dog that can score. They're averaging 39 points a game. If you're going to be in a dog spot against Georgia, they have a great defense here, but you need to put up points to keep pace or backdoor cover. And just last week we saw Georgia, they were -15.5 against, who was it, Missouri. That line actually fell down to like 14.5. What happens? Georgia wins by 9, but they don't cover the number. So it's another conference game. Kiffin, by the way, he knows sports betting, Emerson. If you look at some of his tweets in the past, quote-unquote, rat poison, I think he would obviously wants to win the game, but I think he might take some consolation knowing, hey, we're a big dog, let's at least cover this number.
Yep, a lot of those guys pay attention to what's cooking.
As does James Franklin.
Yep.
Clearly
So
looking at
the lone top 10 win for Kiffin, by the way, at Ole Miss, coming against Kentucky at home last season, and the Wildcats hosting 8th-ranked Alabama. Bama is a win away from wrapping up the SEC West here. Josh, how much trouble will they have getting it against Kentucky?
I like Kentucky in the points today, Emerson. Another line freeze play here. This is the second most heavily bet game of the day. Only Michigan and Penn State is more heavily bet. By the way, both of these games at 12. Can you give me one in primetime tonight? I don't know why college football did this. Maybe we can learn to flex these games down the road at some point. I would love for one of these to be a primetime. But anyway, second most heavily bet game of the day. Emerson, this is the most lopsided game of the day. Currently, you're getting 81% of bets going Alabama. However, Bama opened -11. Hasn't really moved off of -11. That tells me that even though you have such heavy public betting, all these tons and tons of $5 bets on Bama, the line really isn't moving at all. It tells me some liability on Kentucky. Not only your top contrarian play of the day, but also some correlative betting. This total is only 47. That's kind of low in college. You're a double-digit dog in a low total game. Might keep it close. Kentucky does play at a very slow pace here. It's actually last in college football. So I'll take the points here. I think it's a line freeze. Yeah, Alabama wins, but doesn't cover.
All right, Jules, another top 15 meeting here. This time Tennessee on the road at Missouri. This could be a fun shootout between a pair of two lost teams here. So which bets have your attention?
Yeah, Tennessee's growing as a road favorite here. I actually like the home dog. I like Missouri. Luther Burden's playing. That's the big offensive weapon For Missouri, I would lean over, too. I think we should see points in this one regardless, but I like Missouri at home. This is generally a place where I like to take a home dog. Tennessee's a team that I've faded before with Kentucky. Didn't work out, but it was very close to working out, so I'll be stubborn and stick with that and take home dogs against this team. Also, a look-ahead spot to Georgia for Tennessee, whereas Missouri just got done with that game and handled Georgia very well, frankly.
All right, well, SEC title game implications this week. So UGA and Alabama are locked in with victories.
They're not going to blow this. They're going to play each other in Atlanta. We're going to get it. And just like the last time we saw it in 21, Georgia was a favorite. Alabama won outright. I like Alabama as a dog in that game.
All right, still ahead, folks. The NBA's in-season tournament continuing last night, including a clash between Luka and James Harden. We'll evaluate some of the pros and cons of it all when the sweat returns. Welcome back to The Sweat, everybody. This is a show we bring you on VSiN and DraftKings Network every Saturday and Sunday morning live from 8 to 10 Eastern Time. I'm Emerson Lancia, Julian Edlow, Josh Applebaum in the house. Second night of the NBA's inaugural in-season tournament is in the books, guys. So how about the Hornets, 76ers, Wolves, Rockets, and Lakers all overcoming double-digit deficits to earn their first in-season tournament victories last night. So up to this point, just your thoughts on the entire event, like as a whole, and everything we've seen up to this point, Jules.
I don't think it's picked up much steam yet. I think more of the talk is about whether or not you like the uniforms and these ridiculous floors. But we also haven't gotten to the point where it really matters. Like, as far as we're concerned, these 4 early stage group games are regular season games that count towards your record. We've seen guys sit out these games for their usual rest, load management, whatever you want to call it. So teams aren't going all out for it. That said, once we have these guys start winning groups and we get to a neutral court in Vegas and everybody's playing for big money, I think there'll be a little something to it. So I think it's going to take a while to pick up steam. We're not going to know if we like it or not until we see that kind of Final Four bracket play out, and then we'll be able to make a decision.
Yeah, as you get closer to potentially having another $500,000,
that would get me excited if I were allowed to play in the tournament. I would try very hard.
Yeah, but you don't. Why should fans care about this, Josh? What do you think?
So I give the NBA credit. They're trying to spice up the regular season. Also, they've had an issue here in the last few years where, load management. These players don't want to play, or they got a little bit of a tight hammy. I'm going to sit it out today. Obviously, the NBA has an issue with this, and Adam Silver has tried to kind of amend this issue because if you pay expensive prices for tickets. Emerson, we go to the TD Garden to watch the Celtics. We want to see Tatum. We want to see Brown.
Yeah.
It hurts the product if you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and LeBron missing all these games. So adding in obviously this financial component to it, I think is something to keep an eye out for. As you guys mentioned, each player on the winning team gets $500K. So not bad. They'll definitely take that. I look at it 2 things. One, I'll just mention, I hate the floors. I can't stand them.
Really?
I'm trying to watch the Celtics game.
You don't like them getting a little weird,
I'm okay with getting a little weird.
The uniforms are enough of a differentiator to say,
agree.
this is a tournament game. Put a tournament patch on it.
It's a little gimmicky, for sure. But again, I don't mind if they want to do something different.
It's the first time in the history of the Boston Celtics last night that they played at home without a parquet floor.
And I will say that floor last night inside TD Garden was less severe on my eyes than some of these other courts that we've seen.
That's true. Some of them have been worse. I just think it's kind of tough on the eye in terms of a product. I remember when the NHL first started putting kind of their advertisements on the side of the boards. Remember, that would be not the ones that are painted on, but they'd be digitally put on there. And that was kind of hard, and you get used to it. So that's a whole supplementary topic here. I would just say, you mentioned the game last night between the Hornets and the Wizards. It was a high total. It went over, barely went over. But I think with this added motivation, it creates a betting opportunity for bettors to look at live lining, in-game wagering. This is a regular sleepy December night, you're down by 20, you're down by 10, who cares? Maybe these teams pack it in and look for the next game. But with money on the line, with bragging rights on the line, you want to go to Vegas, you want to win this this title. If there's a trophy out there, you might as well play for it. Maybe you get a back and forth game. So live lining could be a look. And then also, these supplementary players who want to get this extra money. If you're getting the league minimum, $500K is pretty meaningful to you. So I'll throw a Celtics guy, Sam Hauser. It's meaningful to him that he gets his $500K.
Yeah.
Maybe look at Sam Hauser over 1.5 threes. It's those role players to me that you should target as well as in-game betting.
Who's not a role player is James Harden. And Jules, he's brought nothing but losses to the Clippers, who have now fallen to 0-3 since the trade. What's going on there? They're just a mid-team now?
It's just more of the usual. James Harden getting what he wants and James Harden not delivering. He's not that player anymore. This was a big mistake by the Clippers. They have nothing left to give, really, other than, you can start trading assets like a Kawhi Leonard, but why would you acquire James Harden to have to sell off other pieces to get back in the mix in terms of future assets? So this isn't going to work. They're going to have to mix up the rotations. Russell Westbrook or James Harden's going to have to come off the bench, and they're going to have to find a spark that I don't feel they have. They're already having a ton of chemistry issues. So I just think it was a big mistake by the Clippers, similar to kind of the Nets when they went all out for Garnett and Pierce, well past their primes, getting them from Boston. Now, it's not going to result in 2 number 3 overall picks to get your Jason Tatums and Jaylen Browns, but it's going to tank a really good core for the Clippers for a while.
Is there anything you would do, I guess, when it comes to betting the Clippers, futures market, or anything like that, just seeing how much they have sucked since James Harden has joined the party?
So I think it also speaks, Emerson, to like addition by subtraction. Like to me, instead of focusing on Harden and maybe the Clippers who made a deal with the devil and said, like, let's just play fantasy basketball. Give me all the big names on one team. But obviously that isn't the way to win. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers right now. I mean, they're 7-1. They're playing great. You make the trade and you're like, you're giving away Harden. You're getting all these ancillary pieces. You know, Nicholas Batum, some of these other guys, they may not mean much to you, but they're a much better team now because these players know their roles. So Clippers right now, I just noticed they're plus 700 to win the Western Conference. So oddsmakers.
That's a terrible bet.
And I agree, no value there, but it does speak to the fact that if on the off chance, you know, and it's early in the season, they get acclimated with each other, they play well, they have the talent to make it click, but I just don't think they have the chemistry to do it. So I'll go the other way. Philadelphia 76ers, they're plus 700 to win the East. It's going to be hard to knock off Boston and Milwaukee, but I'd much rather back Philly, addition by subtraction, getting rid of Harden, than I would want to tail the Clippers.
And I will say real quick, Emerson mentioned, is there a way you want to fade him in the futures market? Forget the futures. They stink right now, and they're getting priced like a very good team. Okay. So pick 'em type of game last night against the Mavericks, right? Mavericks blow them out of the water. So just fade the Clippers, you know, on a day-to-day basis.
What do you like on today's slate? 4 games around the NBA on this Saturday slate. What do you like in terms of player props today, Jules?
Player prop-wise, you know, the big domino to fall is if Lillard's going to play. He's the biggest questionable name on the slate. He didn't last game, and Giannis went well into the 50s against the Pacers. He had 36 a couple games before. If Lillard's out, I'll continue backing Giannis props. I think he would be a guy that I'm looking over on. And then the Celtics are playing back-to-back. They're at home. It doesn't sound like anybody's going to be out. In fact, Al Horford's probably going to come back after sitting last night. But if they do wind up sitting anybody, that's a situation to potentially keep an eye on in terms of the player prop market.
Okay, yeah, so Celtics are hosting the Raptors here, Josh. And then you also have the Heat at the Hawks, Cavs at the Warriors, and as Jules mentioned, Bucks at the Magic.
I'll focus on Bucks Magic. To me, this is kind of your game of the day here. Magic are kind of a little bit spunky here. They've obviously had to bottom out. They've had all these number 1 picks for so many years. They're starting to build a little bit of a young core. You saw Paolo Banchero obviously have a great year last year, Rookie of the Year. We have other guys. Fultz, we kind of thought he was a bust. He's playing decent. Suggs is better this year, and obviously Franz Wagner. So I think you're building a core at this point. Now, this is to me what's so frustrating about the NBA. Not knowing who's in and who's out. This is just so annoying if you're betting on a game because you can spend all morning, Emerson, capping a game feeling like you've made a great bet, then boom, Lillard is in or Lillard is out. You just have to kind of wait on these games. To me, it's always tough because you want to get a good price early, but I also don't want to bet, Bucks -4 right now, Lillard's out, and the line gets down to 2. So I'd wait this thing out. I'll focus on a couple things here. I will go over in this game.
Okay.
Emerson, it opened 232. You're kind of creeping up to like 232.5. Saw one book maybe go to 233. One thing that we've seen from the Bucks thus far, they still have the great offense, but they are playing no defense whatsoever. I mean, they're giving up like 115, 120 a game. They're 25th in defensive efficiency. They're 6-2 to the over. So I think the Magic would be a team to target, and specifically some player props here, like Franz Wagner, 17.5 points, juiced up way over -130. Suggs, can he get you 11 points today? I like him to go over 10.5, -125. Then Markelle Fultz, 12.5, over -125. So the Bucks, to me, Celtics Bucks will be a great conference finals if we get that. But until they figure out their defense, I think the Bucks are a bet against in terms of player props and taking overs.
All right, so he likes that Bucks Magic total. What do you like? You got a game back, got a total you're going to target on this 4-game slate?
Yeah, agree with Josh. Bucks have not gotten the defense together, and they've been a great look on the overs. I'm going to go with Old Faithful and the Celtics here. I played their first half and full game team totals over last night. Both cashed. If you remember early last season, they started off like 10, 11-0 at home to the first half team total over, throttling early, take their foot off the gas a little bit last night, as they did in a lot of these previous games. So Celtics first half team total is going to be a look for me. They've gone over in all 3 home games this season. They're averaging 67 points per game in the first half at home. Toronto is a top 10 defense. I think they rank 8th overall in points per game allowed, but they allow 8 more points per game on the road this season. So you're getting them on the road. I don't care about the back-to-back. I expect the Celtics to come out hot and continue scoring points at home, particularly early.
All right, so 11 games on tomorrow's slate. Before we head to break, what early leans do you have at this point? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the market up for the games yet, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. I'll just say, as usual, it's going to be injury based and rest based. We just had a lot of these teams play tournament games that maybe they put stock in on Friday night. So maybe these Sunday games, particularly an afternoon one, would be a game to give a guy some rest. So that's what I'm paying attention to when I'm looking at these games when the market does come out on them.
All right, Josh, anything you're thinking of right now before all the games become live here on DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, waiting for these lines to pop up, Emerson. I think you can also kind of do a little test case as a better. We don't have the lines yet. Think about what you might project these lines to be. Compare your projections to what they get posted at. That's kind of how you can kind of go on the road to creating your own power ratings and kind of setting your own numbers. But Pacers, 76ers. Emerson, I love betting Pacers overs, man. They run fast, great offense, bad defense. I'm waiting on the total, but I'd go over Pacers.
All right, Maple Leafs and also the Canucks, a couple teams that maybe target some overs in the NHL. We're going to poke over to the ice and help you build a money-making DFS lineup after the break. are now 1 month into the NHL season. For some, you're doing the bull dance. You're really feeling the flow, while others, your optimism and enthusiasm is wearing off and you're miserable once again. Thankfully, we have two of the best here to cheer you up. DraftKings Network contributor Jeff Ulrich, NHL.com's Anna Dua. Great to see both of you this morning. Guys, we're looking at 12 games on tonight's slate here. One that includes the Hurricanes on the second night of a back-to-back, facing the Lightning. So Carolina, we all know, sputtered out of the gates this season. Some of that mess has been cleaned up. Tampa Bay, for the most part, doing Tampa Bay things again. Who are you giving the edge to in this one, Anna?
Shocker to none, I got to give the edge to the Carolina Hurricanes.
I knew you were doing that. I knew it.
Of course I was going to do that, but it's just because Carolina continues to be an offensive monster this season, guys. They're just dominating the game in terms of their forward skaters, and they play well against Tampa. Usually they were 2-1 against the Tampa Bay Lightning last season. Tampa got hit with the Connor Bedard show on Thursday, guys. Did not look like themselves. So after that, I think I'm giving Carolina the edge in this one.
How about it? Connor Bedard with 4 points. Youngest player with a 4-point game since World War II. Jeff, you were alive and well back then. Carolina?
Sure was.
Carolina or Tampa Bay tonight?
Yeah, man. I mean, Bobby Orr skating down the ice. I don't even think Bobby Orr was in the NHL then. Anyways, no, I mean, I'm with Anna. I mean, Tampa Bay, sure, they're scoring, but I mean, their defense has been shoddy. They're allowing they're fifth last in terms of goals against. Goaltending's been bad. I mean, obviously it's going to be an issue till they get Vasilevsky back, but this is a really tough matchup when you're talking about Carolina who's creating chances, decent power play as well. I just have not liked the way Tampa Bay has looked sort of from a week to week basis here so far. I don't think they're going to be the same until they get their goaltending sorted out. So until that happens, give me the Carolina Hurricanes in this one. Yeah,
but how dialed in and dangerous has Kucherov been on the power play, man? He's looked freaking insane.
Absolutely. And I think that this is going to still be a good matchup to target for fantasy. I mean, it's, again, Carolina has certainly turned the ship a little bit, but I mean, their goaltending is still an issue as well. They're definitely more defensively like Carolina has been in the past, but I think that on both sides there's going to be scoring. I mean, I really wouldn't be shocked if this went over its number either.
Well, Anna, speaking of scoring here, don't look now or maybe do, but the times may be a changing in British Columbia. Vancouver's offense, for crying out loud, has been a juggernaut. Another 5 goals scored on Thursday. They've knocked off Jeff's Oilers, not one, not twice, but 3 times already this season. The Canucks will clash with your nerve-wracking Maple Leafs this evening. How tasty of a stacking matchup is this one?
It's got to be one of the best ones on the board. I mean, if you can get any piece of Vancouver right now, you should. It's their entire team, guys. Quinn Hughes is averaging over 2 points per game in his last 5 games. Patterson has 14 points in his last 7. This entire team, JT Miller, the list goes on and on. Even Thatcher Demko's playing really well. It's a high-scoring matchup, so maybe avoid some netminders in this one, but the entire team looks rock solid. I will give Toronto a little bit of credit, though. William Nylander is having a ridiculous start to the season. It's not being talked about enough. He's been the most reliable player for this team night in and night out, so he's absolutely someone I'm targeting on this slate.
Yeah, Jeff, you lean more towards stacking maybe Vancouver with Toronto playing twice here in 24 hours, although Austin Matthews is averaging over a goal per game this season. It's kind of freaky.
It's okay. I mean, it's not bad. But yeah, look, I think when you're stacking this game, you're looking at this game, I think that, I mean, you can stack either side. You might want to create multiple lineups to get exposure to this game. But if you're targeting Vancouver, I actually think Thatcher Demko, who's probably going to start here, is a really good option. Don't forget, you get points for saves. I mean, even if Toronto fires 40 pucks here and he lets in a couple, if he gets the W, it's going to be a really good night. Don't forget, he stopped over 40 shots against Edmonton a couple nights ago. He started well. You could pair him with Peterson and, potentially JT Miller or Brock Boeser. But if you're going Toronto, and I would probably lean Toronto in this game very slightly. Vancouver's been on a road trip too. They just played Ottawa. I do think this is a spot just with the center matchup where Austin Matthews could potentially, pot a couple. So Nylander especially, but I think that if one thing for sure, if you're stacking Toronto, I mean, you're going to have to pay up. And then obviously just avoid Demko. Don't put the two together. That would be a rookie move. So.
All right. Well, Anna, you and the gang at NHL Fantasy here have been handing out some great plays every day we're talking like of players to watch, who's in a good spot to pick up some points. So here's Thursdays. So predicted point for a goal. He got an assist. Comfer got a goal, no assist. Besser left Ottawa with a goal. I mean, we're not going to quibble here over the exact stats. A point is a point. So while you had our curiosity, you now have our attention. Pete mentioned last week, NHL Edge launched a few weeks back. It's got tons of data and advanced analytics here on every player. How have you been using this each night to pick your DFS lineups out?
Guys, NHL Edge is so awesome. It really helps you narrow down some stats and trends, focus on players who have really good trends going that the normal stats just don't pick up on, as well as whole team trends. So, for example, we kicked off this show today talking about the Carolina Hurricanes playing the Tampa Bay Lightning. A big reason why I'm so high on Carolina in that matchup is they lead the entire NHL in shots this season. They lead the entire NHL in offensive zone percentage this season, which you can find on NHL Edge. And it's not even close. Every day I check that site, and Carolina's right up there at the top in all of those categories, which is why I have so much faith in that offense. And you can figure out all of those trends if you just go on NHL.com/edge.
Yeah, that's right. And Jeff, some of these comparisons look like they are super helpful here, and just something as simple as, for example, I'm looking at zone time here. Coyotes and Preds tonight. Coyotes spend 41.7% in their own defensive zone, above league average, while the Preds here, Jeff, so they're in the offensive zone 41.7% of the time. So maybe that has you looking to roster some of the guys up front for Smashville.
It's a great point. I think the Predators have been, disappointing, especially over the last couple of games. When you look at them from an advanced stat perspective, not only on NHL Edge, but just from, xGFS percentage. I mean, expected goal rate, 5-on-5, like they're up there. They're top 10. This is a team that's creating chances. I think you look at Arizona, not only as the NHL Edge points out, like they're in their defensive zone an inappropriate amount of time, let's put it that way. You can look at their goaltenders, and their goaltenders started out hot, but they're regressing a little bit more towards league average in terms of high danger, save percentage overall. I think it's a good matchup for Nashville. I do like looking here. I like Nashville here. Their shooting percentage also has some room to improve, some positive regression. So yeah, looking at their top line, looking at their power play as well, still a potent power play, Roman Josie back there. So I do like Nashville in this one. This is a matchup I would be looking for fantasy for sure. I think Nashville could just be a good low owned target for DFS. So.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like there are a lot of proven places to search for offense there in Nashville. But speaking of that, Anna, out of the dozen games tonight, which forward would you say is your favorite?
I'm looking at the LA Kings right now. They're undefeated on the road so far this year, guys, which a lot of people don't give them enough credit for. But a big part of that effort for the Kings has been Adrian Kempe. He has 5 goals, 12 points in his past 8 games. The Kings will be playing against the Philadelphia Flyers, who will be on the second leg of a back-to-back. So I like the momentum LA is riding after all of those wins, and Kempe has been such a big part of it that he's my forward to watch.
All right, Jeff Ulrich.
I mean, I do like the Predators in this match. I think Philip Forsberg's a really good target. He's averaging over 3.5 shots per game, facing an Arizona Coyotes team who, again, spends too much time in their zone, doesn't have like the greatest penalty kill in the world either. And their goaltenders have been failing a bit. I think this is the spot where Forsberg could come through with, 5 shots and a goal kind of game. So really like him in that matchup.
All right, let's drop back to the blue line here, Jeff Ulrich. Your defenseman du jour, please.
I mean, we talked about the Hurricanes, so why not talk about Dmitry Orlov, who's, anchoring, at least 50% of their power play at this point. He's not quite a point per game, but, in terms of DFS, you're going to get him cheaper than normal. And I think the other player to kind of note here is John Carlson, who's in a pretty solid matchup as well. Washington's power play has definitely been brutal, but, again, like this is potentially, part of it, this is obviously matchup based. The Islanders allowing a lot of shots on net. Islanders have not been good on the penalty kill either. So Carlson's a potential breakout candidate, should be low owned as well. Hasn't had the greatest start to the year, but definitely in a spot against the Islanders here where I think he can excel. So,
all right, Anna, who do you like on the blue line tonight?
I'm taking the exact opposite take of Jeff, and I'm looking at the New York Islanders and Noah Dobson, 12 points in his past 11 games. The Islanders are playing the Capitals on the second night of a back-to-back for them as well. So even though the Islanders are not looking good as a team, Noah Dobson has been a big, bright spot for this franchise, their most impactful skater so far this season, and I look to see his momentum continuing in this one.
All right, you two. Appreciate it. Again, 12 games on tonight's slate to choose from. So hit up DraftKings, build those money-making lineups. Always listen to Anna and Jeff. Find them on social media as well. Coming up, we know what you're dealing with this morning. A nice, fat, juicy NFL hangover. So you know what's going to help you cure that? A little bit of overreaction, baby. Like, did Josh Dobbs just save the Vikings season? The answer is yes. We will overreact even more when the sweat returns after this break. 1 hour down, one more to go here on the sweat. I'm still Emerson Lotzie. This man, still Julian Hedlow, still Josh Applebaum. We got more college football best bets to dish out, plus a healthy dose of NFL chase or fade. Jeff Ulrich will return for that one. Speaking of the NFL, let's hope those out there just joining us now cure that little pigskin hangover that they may or may not have. This is a segment built for all of those overreactions floating around in your big, beefy brains. So let's start with the first game of Week 10. Also known as the Snooze Bowl, the Toilet Bowl, between the Panthers and Bears from Thursday night. Chicago gets its third win of the season. More importantly, Chicago, which owns Carolina's 2024 first-round pick, also boosting its chances of landing the top selection with the victory. Okay, Tyson Bagent. Better quarterback than Bryce Young right now, Julian? Let's go. That's not an overreaction.
We were talking about that beforehand. I say no. I'm still going with the talent of a number one overall pick. I know how bad he's struggling versus a D2 guy because
he's not just a D2 guy. He's a D. He's like he won the D2 Heisman. He's throwing more touchdowns.
Somebody wins the D2 Heisman every year. Are they all starting NFL quarterbacks?
No, they're not. But this guy is, and right now he looks better and has more wins than Bryce Young.
And I think Bryce Young would look better if he were on the Bears and Bagent were on the Panthers. So I'm not saying Bryce Young's going to be a superstar or anything. I'm not ready to label him a bust. It's a real tough situation. We've seen it a million times with these number one picks that go into really difficult situations.
Josh, how much heat does Frank Reich deserve here? Would breaking up that pair after just one season be a little premature?
I think so. I think you got to ride this thing out. I mean, you mortgage your future here, trading off so many picks to move up in the draft to get Bryce Young. You're committed to him. And I think Frank Reich is the right guy. Former quarterback. He knows what he's doing offensively. It just goes to show you it's really difficult to go from college to the NFL. Now, C.J. Stroud, on the other hand, is making it look pretty easy. But there was during the game, there was kind of a little thing they put up on the TV looking at all the number one picks and their passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions. Bryce Young is kind of just right there with how these number one picks typically perform. So long term, I still think he's got a lot of potential here. I'm worried about the size a little bit. Just seems like really tiny back there, kind of hard to get over your line.
He's not Kyler Murray tiny.
And injuries, you got to know when to slide. And to me, it's his quick decision making. If he's going to be a good QB, he's got a kind of that Drew Brees model. But two takeaways from that primetime game, Emerson. One, as always, the importance of the hook, that extra half point. Ended up being Panthers covering the number, plus 3.5. Why was that so important? Because that line was going back and forth, 3.5, 3.5. So if you're on the dog, it's around that key number of 3. Always get the hook. Also, unders. It's been unbelievable this year. We've actually seen these favorites do pretty decent. I think they're like 53%. Usually dogs are better. That's been a weird year where chalk has done very well on the side. But totals, Emerson, another under hit here. Unders are now 84 and 52, 62%. If you had put $100 on every under this year, you're up almost $2,700. And in particular, it's these primetime unders. Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. Primetime unders are now 23 and 7, 77%. It's been an unbelievable betting system to follow here. You got 2 games upcoming, Emerson. And I'll just say, I'm just going to, out of principle, keep playing these primetime unders. Jets and Vegas Raiders Sunday night, tomorrow night. 36.5 total. Very low, but these are 2 of the slowest paced teams in the NFL. I'll go under there. And then also Bills. Bills against the Denver Broncos, under 46.5. It's a windy under. Where's Steve at? Doesn't have to worry about that.
Took the weekend off because you knew you were going to talk about windy unders.
Exactly, but that's a windy under system match. And also you have the Broncos dead last in pace. So primetime unders, primetime unders, primetime unders.
I mean, just overall, Joel, scoring is down in the NFL.
Just
what are the causes?
Cut out primetime. Unders.
What's the cause of that, do you think?
It's definitely a little bit more defensive oriented as it once was in the NFL. They're bringing defense back a little bit to a degree. And I also think it's the lack of head coaches and quarterbacks in the NFL. Like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers is, for the moment gone. Peyton Manning. And you got the guys that were once the greatest, your Bill Belichick's, losing their fastball. So I think a combination of better defense and the rules allowing more defense, along with just a lack of talent at quarterback and head coach. Like Mahomes, Burrow, you got some guys on the top. Who do you go to after that? I don't know.
Offenses are currently scoring touchdowns on just 53% of their drives that have reached the red zone. That's the lowest rate in more than a decade, since 2012. Let's go to the land of 10,000 lakes, shall we? Josh Dobbs leading a come-from-behind road win over the Falcons just days after being traded to the Vikings here, guys. This was extremely impressive. So we're talking without even taking a rep in practice, really knowing his teammates' names, for crying out loud. Is it an overreaction to say the offense will actually be a good play the rest of the season here?
I don't think that's an overreaction. The Vikings should have a good offense. They had a good offense last year. They had a good offense to start the year. They should maintain that. They don't have Kirk Cousins, but Justin Jefferson should be back at some point in time. I think what
back
Dobbs
in practice,
did,
but I don't think he's going to play this
right.
weekend.
So I think what Dobbs did is extremely impressive. I don't want to overreact to that. This could be a spot that it kind of they level out this week and it kind of comes back to get them, but rather than not knowing his teammates' names and all that stuff, I think what was more impressive is that he has to get the play in his ear, call the play to his teammates so that they know the play, then ask everybody, okay, what does that mean? Where are you guys going to be? After he gets the play out to them that he doesn't know what it means. Like, just relaying that can be difficult, and then understanding what it means. So, and the dude's like a rocket scientist, apparently. So I learned that last week. So he's very smart.
Yeah, me too. People are hammering away at that.
No, you're not. But he is, and it showed on the field on that game. And he's a solid option moving forward. That's a guy that the Jets could have used when they kept going with rolling Zach Wilson out there week after week.
Okay, Dobbs has saved Minnesota's season at 5-4. Overreaction, Josh?
I don't think so. 5-4, that's a pretty good record. They've won a lot of these one-score games. Obviously, last year you won them all. So got a little bit lucky here. You've been playing some tomato can type teams who you've been able to take advantage of. Their win total adjusted right now, Emerson, is 8.5.
Okay.
It's -110 both sides. So there really isn't a lean here on the sportsbook one way or the other. But in terms of Dobbs, from a player prop standpoint, I think you target his rushing prop. It's 28.5 going up against New Orleans tomorrow. It's 28.5 over -120. Can he get you 29 rushing yards? I think that's a definitely doable number. We'll kind of put that away, see tomorrow if this thing starts to rise. That'll be an indication that there is respective money going over. But Dobbs has gone over this number. He's had 29 or more rushing yards in 6 of his last 8 games. You look at the Saints, believe it or not, really good defense here, but they give up quite a few yards to quarterbacks in terms of rushing. They give up the third most in the NFL, or almost 30 yards per game, 243 overall. Probably it's because, you got a good pass rush, you got a good secondary, so that leaves, nowhere to throw to. Let me just go out there and run. And then New Orleans just gave up to your guy last week, Emerson, Tyson Bagent, who's better than Bryce Young,
Yes,
I would
he
mention, for this year at least. Gave up 8 rushes for 70 yards. So Dobbs is a great story. You really want to root for this kid. And I think the way to target him would be going over 28.5 rushing yards tomorrow.
All right, let's go to the Big Apple here. Daniel Jones gets the bad news, guys. He has a torn ACL. He's out for the season. The Giants find themselves in a tough spot, right? Because they just paid this dude, so you would think that they would not be in the market for a new franchise quarterback if they end up with the top 3 pick. But
unfortunately, they are.
Yes, exactly. Like, top 3 pick is where this thing is trending. A lot of tasty quarterback options to choose from. The Danny Dimes era is over in New York. Overreaction, Josh?
I think that's probably correct, yeah. And I think this is a kind of a test case for a lot of other teams where, you feel like you have to make a decision on a player. Obviously, it's a first-round pick. You got the 5th-year option. But just franchise tag them. Don't sign them to these huge deals. If you want to keep them around, bite the bullet for 1 year. The last thing you want is to commit so much money in terms of your cap to a guy who really isn't that great. Now, I give Daniel Jones credit. They won a playoff game last year. Dable had a really good rookie year as a head coach. So there was a lot to kind of believe in Daniel Jones. But you see this all the time. You're seeing it a little bit with the Celtics. Jaylen Brown gets his huge money contract. Is he as good as he was last year? I would say not really. So I'm always wary of guys who get their money and then feel like, hey, I've kind of achieved what I always wanted to. Where's the room for growth? I would look, actually, in terms of the Cowboys game this weekend, I might lay the points, Emerson. I'm thinking about it. -17. It's creeping up to 17.5. Danny DeVito's kid here, what's his name? Tommy DeVito?
Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito. I don't think you're going to get much offense.
Illinois
And Jules,
right?
did you show me a tweet earlier? Is he's still living with his parents?
So Tommy DeVito lives with his parents.
Oh my God, I would love to
currently.
still be living with mom and dad. Dude,
know,
that means
right?
he doesn't have to pay rent.
No, he's getting
Yeah.
the rookie minimum and living at home,
he's
saving
able
on
to
rent.
pocket
That's
that
not bad.
entire paycheck, for crying out loud. Imagine the rent around New York and New Jersey.
But I would
Smart.
say laying the points to me could be worth a look, Emerson. It's a 50-50 bet split. Public isn't loving Dallas, yet this line keeps going to Dallas. You know, they were minus 14-15 just the other day. This is maybe a, 31-7 game by Dallas. I actually might lay the 17.
Do the Giants have it out here with this Danny Dimes contract? Or just, I mean, does it matter? Like, there's too
honestly,
many
I need
options
to
to
look
choose from
into
in the draft.
Yeah, like I need to look into when the actual outs are, but
Like, they don't pass on any of these top quarterbacks.
He
You have
just
a
signed
top-
it. Well, I personally would take a quarterback. You just admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
What I think that there's a chance that they would take a Marvin Harrison Jr., a lineman to protect their investment in Daniel Jones
How
and
many
just further
chances are they
make
gonna
their
get Daniel
wrong
Jones?
decision
Take Drake May if
more
he's there.
wrong.
Why wouldn't
so
you? Yeah.
I would, but I mean,
Giants love their linemen, though.
I think the Giants might be a little stubborn here and not admit their mistake this early on
Okay.
in the contract.
I think Daboll is safe for a little bit, though, in New York. Can't say the same for Bill Belichick, guys. He's fired if they lose to the Colts tomorrow in Germany. Is that an overreaction, Jules?
That's an overreaction. They're not going to fire Bill Belichick in season after all that he's done. Is he a bad coach right now? Yeah, I think so, and he's even worse at how he's managing his roster. So I don't think Bill Belichick's done a good job. If this was somebody else, this is the type of game you could get fired after, but this will be handled with a little bit more grace in the offseason.
Okay.
And it would not even shock me if Bill Belichick was back as the head coach of the Patriots next year.
Oh.
He
How does
just
that-
signed
how
a
does- how
lucrative extension, as we learned a
Yeah,
couple
but
of
then
weeks
there's
ago.
other reports that say this really changes nothing, and Kraft could still say, see you later. I know he's the most accomplished coach of all time, Josh, but
Yeah, even if they
his
lose-
seat is scorching hot.
I think it's scorching out for sure, and I think they do lose tomorrow. I moneyline the Colts here. They were a dog to
Same.
fave line move, much better on offense. Patriots have injuries too. No Trent Brown for that game. So to me, I think Kraft doesn't fire Belichick just because of all he's accomplished. To me, this is a spot where you kind of look at it over the offseason. Can you trade him for a pick to the Commanders? I think that's what Kraft should do.
All right, we got more college football best bets to get to, and we will do that after this break. Should Oregon be on upset watch against Caleb Williams and USC?
No.
Ooh. right, back here on the Sweat with more juicy college football bets. We got one of college football's fiercest rivalries going down today. Number 4, Florida State hosting Miami. The undefeated Seminoles already clinched a spot, right? In the
A little
ACC.
less fierce this time around.
Yeah, that's true. And really last year, if you look at that result. Anywho, Seminoles in the ACC title game. They clinched a spot there. They have a good shot at the college football playoff as long as they can avoid any slip-ups over the last few weeks of the regular season. So the Hurricanes would love nothing more than to demolish those hopes, guys. Here is Mario Cristobal on the latest chapter between these two storied programs.
I think it's the best one. Just, played in it, coached in it. I think it's the best one. There is intensity unmatched. So.
Do you worry that it's going to be a little too intense, that they have to tone it down a little?
I think it's important to play on passion as opposed to emotion, right? Emotion could kind of go up and down and lead you to maybe overthink or not think or whatnot. But in terms of, I think the energy and the juice behind it take care of itself. We got to make sure we do, and everybody, to do a really good job on focusing on what to do, how to do it, why to do it that way. Assignment football, and let the intensity and the passion take care of itself.
All right, Hurricanes have had a roller coaster of a season, Josh. FSU still needs to win to hang on to that edge that it currently has in the playoff. What's the bet?
So I don't have an official bet here, Emerson. I will lean toward Miami, Florida, though, plus the points, just because it's moved so much and it's such a huge public play toward Florida State. And you'll see this all the time, these high-ranked teams. Public loves falling in love with that, 1 or 2 digit number in front of their name. So it's automatically, hey, lay it with Florida State. This isn't like the old Miami team from back in the day. Obviously, Cristobal screwing up the time, not calling the timeout. He lost them a game. I'm wondering if that's an effect here in the locker room in terms of kind of the buy-in for this team. But I would say the value of the number, this is just a system-based bet. Currently, you're getting Florida State 81% of bets. That's a hugely lopsided play in favor of Florida State. Now, they did open minus 13, but now you're all the way up to like 14.5. So to me, you're kind of losing value. The key number of 14, you win by 14. You wanted to target Florida State 13.5 or less. Now you're getting the hook. Some of these books are 14.5, maybe coming back down to 14. So it's a purely just, bet against the public play, kind of a pure contrarian play. I don't know if I'll play at Emerson, but I would look toward Miami 14.5 or nothing.
Jewel, Seminoles are motivated in this one, and Miami struggled mightily to score points in last week's loss at NC State.
Yeah, going at NC State is generally a tough place to play. We've seen that. That's a defensive team. It can be a low-scoring result. I'm with Josh. I lean to Miami plus 14.5. I don't know if I'll ultimately come around and play it. But, yeah, this is the time of year where FSU has its sights set on going undefeated. They have a giant target on their back. They're probably going to be laying more points than they should in a lot of these matchups, and their mindset is going to be just get to the finish line and win. So the only other angle on this game is like FSU Miami. You mentioned the rivalry. A lot of these kids played high school football together, or grew up together. They're going head to head. They want to show up and play well in this game. So I think Miami should have some motivation, whereas FSU's goal is just get to the finish line with the win.
All right, you mentioned at the top of the show how much you like Oregon
Quack,
today.
quack.
The
floor is yours,
quack,
Julian.
quack, quack, Mr. Ducksworth. But you also said if Oregon loses, you said this during break, you're going to need a place to bunk up for a while.
Fortunately, you've got me there, which is nice of you. But I'm not going to need it. The Ducks aren't
You're not
losing
gonna need
tonight
my couch?
at home. No.
It's a win-win for you either way. You win money or you get to hang out with Emerson. So.
No,
And my dogs.
It's a monster loss if I am sleeping on Emerson's couch. Ducks are going to win. They're going to be fine. I have no faith in this USC team. Coming off another home loss to Washington. They gave up 52 points in that game. Now they're going to go on the road to an Oregon team that, like FSU to a degree, they have their sights set on winning out this season and getting into the college football playoff. Difference is Oregon already dropped one on the road at Washington. So they are going to need to differentiate themselves from the other one-loss teams. That's going to take some style points. What are style points? Style points is what Oregon did at home last week when they scored 63 at home against Cal. This Cal team scored 49 against USC. As I mentioned, USC gave up over 50 at home last week. When they went on the road to Notre Dame, not even that great of an offense, high 40s there. Just give me the Oregon team total over. I'm also playing it in the first half over. I think this is foot on the gas early, and keep your foot on the gas. So any which way you want to bet the Ducks, just let me know, and I'm going to say I'm with you.
Well, I'm pretty close to the office here, so it's a very short walk.
Yeah, I mean,
the
if
show.
I will save some gas money on the commute if
Josh.
Oregon loses, but
Josh, USC plus 16 right now in the DK Sportsbook. You going to nibble on the Trojans and Caleb Williams here with 2 touchdowns and then some?
On Julian's behalf, just because you don't want to have him. At least he's got to pay rent if he lives with Emerson.
I won't have rent to pay. I won't be able to do it.
He'll be in a tough spot.
Dumb and Dumber. I'll stuff him a bag full of IOUs.
But I think Julian's on
Get
the
to
right
him
side
later.
here. This line just keeps going to Oregon. I mean, you open as low as minus 13. You're all the way up to 16. Kind of reminds me, I think it was last month when it was Colorado, Oregon. Remember, everyone's like, oh, take Colorado on the points. The line kept creeping up toward Oregon. Oregon rolled in that spot. So Oregon's only getting 62% of bets. It's not like they're a huge public team getting like 80%, 90% or more. So I'll lean with Julian because this line move just has not let up on Oregon. But I would look toward the over in this game. It opened at like 74-ish. It's now all the way up to 77. It's kind of a pro and Joe bet split. 75% bets, almost 80% of the money is on the over. And also, you look at the USC in particular. Now, they gave up 52 last week, 49 the week before. They have a very porous defense. Oregon can put up points. But also, if you're going to cash an over, you need both teams to score here. And USC can score. They're actually 9-1 to the over this year. So Caleb Williams, believe it or not, actually maybe it's obvious, but he's still, I think, minus 400 would be the first overall pick. It was a topic of conversation all week locally about crying in his mom's arms during the game. Will that hurt his draft stock? I don't know. Obviously, the market doesn't think so, Emerson.
It won't. Yeah. I mean, he's going to go there. But like Josh said really quick on the game, I do think bettors see this and see USC plus 16 with Caleb Williams and actually like that.
Besides the Notre Dame game, he really hasn't been the issue.
True.
Like, even
Defense
last week.
is the issue.
That's
why I'm throwing everything out and going team totals.
Okay, another huge one, the Pac-12, Utah, Washington. I believe, has this line dropped like half a point or so? But the Utes will present the toughest defense Washington has faced this season. What do you got?
And, Josh, I don't know if you've heard, windy under out there in Washington.
Like that.
Man, I know Steve right now sipping his coffee, watching
Look at you, Julian.
We are going to have
windy
some
unders
weather out there in this one. Utah, I love the under in this game, by the way. What is it, 49.5 now? I played it at 50. It's still 49.5. Yeah. It came out 55.5, I think. This is going to fall by the 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Regardless of the weather, I was on this play. I just think Washington's offense has not done much since that Oregon game in general. They kind of like FSU. They have the luxury of not having a loss yet, and they just need to get by in these games. They don't need the style points. They just need to win. And I think that plays a factor. And you look at Utah, the only way Utah can, I don't think they're going to win this game, but the only way they can stay in the game, win the possession, win time of possession, run the ball, play defense. That's what Utah does. I love this under. There's not many Pac-12 unders I'll play. It's generally overs, but when I do, Utah's always involved, it seems like.
Josh, Washington is a marked team right now, and there are several one-loss Titans in the playoff race who will be watching this one closely.
So first off, Julian, you just made my day. You just threw out a windy under at us.
I'll just say for the record,
Buchanan. Yeah.
I was on the under in this one to begin with.
Tomorrow?
I
have to now.
I'm on the under to begin with, but I did happen to notice might be swirling out there in Washington.
And you know what's even better than just straight win? Crosswinds. That's really what you want to look at.
Is that what it is?
There could be some crosswinds, which makes it even more difficult because you don't know which way it's blowing, Emerson. 15 to 20 miles per hour. I'm serious. Crosswinds. And we actually should have saved this one for Steve. So bookmark this one, tweet it out, tag Steve just to make his head explode and that he's not here. But 16 to 20 mile per hour winds, the total has fallen. I would just mention, it feels like an easy layup here for Washington, but this line is going back a little bit toward Utah. I mean, earlier this week, this was 10, 10.5, 9.5. It's now down to, I see some 8s out there. So for whatever reason, that maybe a bite at the apple, maybe Washington just wants to win the game, doesn't care about style points. But windy under, I'm with Julian. And again, if you're telling me like Utah, only 20% bets, late move, I'm not going to argue with you. Utes are taking some money today.
All right, so any other bets you like here today? Rutgers, Iowa, like both of you are on this thing. We're going under. What's the total?
Julian, you going over?
Dude, you've gone over the last 2 weeks, and they have failed you the last 2 weeks.
Based on what you're supposed to do. I'm not actually betting it, but you're asking me to pick.
Oh, God.
That's how gross. That's how gross with the total is.
You can't live in my mouth anymore.
This total. No, I'll play Iowa money line. It's like they're at home. It's minus 115-ish against Rutgers. Like, come on. That one won't make me spew out garbage like trying to think about betting this total.
Okay.
Iowa money line for me.
All right, Josh, I'm seeing Fresno State, San Jose State on your card.
Yeah, I just saw a really sharp move to San Jose State. It makes no sense. They have the worst record yet. Fresno, I believe, is 8-1. They opened Fresno -1.5. It's flipped now to San Jose State -2.5. Something's going on here with San Jose State taking in some money. That's kind of one of those late fishy games no one's looking at yet. Sharps have targeted, so give me San Jose State money line. And then Emerson all day with this under, low total. Lowest since 1995, that Rutgers game. A little bit of wind in that game, nothing crazy, but
Either
two of
team's
the
gonna pass anyway.
slowest pace of
Wind
play.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
13 to 10 game.
All right, good stuff. We got to take a 240-second break. When we come back, George Pickens, his social media meltdown. Will it help or hurt his chances of getting the football this weekend?
I believe, I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but I believe our defense has no weakness. Just from the defensive line, the linebacker, how they flying around and disguising defenses to make it look like one coverage, but it's something else, and how they time up their blitzes. It helps us out a lot, because we playing other teams, they flying around giving us their best shot. It's like we send one of the best defenses every day.
All right, Lamar Jackson very confident in his defense. Josh Applebaum is here. Julian Edlow's choking on his own saliva out in the hallway. So a virtual Jeff Ulrich is sliding into a spot for a fun little segment of Chase or Fade. Lamar said it here, Jeff. The defense has no weaknesses. They're going up against the Browns this week, which that's an offense that looked like it had no weaknesses with Deshaun Watson shockingly last week. You riding with Lamar and chasing the under, total sitting at 38 right now.
I mean, the rule of the NFL is as soon as someone says something stupid like, oh, my defense has no weaknesses, my offense can score 50-plus points, they get clowned. I mean, I'm not saying Baltimore is bad or they deserve to be or they're not the best team in the NFL. I hate it when players come out and say things like this. And you're right. Cleveland's offense has been pretty good. Deshaun Watson looked pretty good last week. The move in this line has been really weird. It opened at 37.5. There seems to be public money coming in on the over, which isn't shocking, but it does worry me a little bit that it hasn't gone down. This is a total I'm not betting. If I was betting, I would probably look to lean a little bit towards the over. One prop I do like, Deshaun Watson over pass attempts. He's gone over 28.5 pass attempts in each of his 4 starts this year. I do think the Browns are going to throw the ball a little bit more than people think.
I mean, both these defenses, Josh, are elite against the pass, so maybe you would expect more running in this game. By the way, weather looking fine, clear skies and low winds as of this moment.
And any crosswinds, Emerson, that's what I'm looking for. No crosswinds here, but I'll go under in this one. I think this total is set right where it should be. It's pretty low. It feels low, 38. You may be able to shop around and find a 38.5. But to me, this is an angle on a divisional under. If you look at unders in general this year, you mentioned it earlier, how are you not playing them? You're worried a little bit that they're being maybe overvalued, or because the books are seeing that all these unders are cashing, maybe they start to jack these totals down a little bit more. So you're worried about some regression here. But unders on the year are 62%. You also look at divisional unders, especially outdoor divisional unders. That's around 64% the last few years. And remember, these teams did play week 4. It was 28-3. The Ravens won. Now that's a little deceiving. That was actually Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback in place of Deshaun Watson. But to me, Emerson, this is another low-scoring game. You get to these divisional matchups, there's a lot of familiarity, not much surprises you. And if you look at those low totals, when they're 40 or less, the under is actually 15-9. So is this a 20-10, 20-17 type game? I think that's doable.
All right, the Cardinals can't afford to trot out Clayton Tune again, so they're going to see what Kyler Murray has to offer before they consider their 2024 quarterback plan. So he's back. They're saying, the team, Josh, that he's up to full speed. So are we chasing Kyler Murray's rushing props this week?
Ooh, I'm worried about, a big star player just taking the obvious play. Like you see in the NBA, LeBron take the over, when Tom Brady was playing, take the over passing yards. So it's a big name who can run, but you also got to think, on the one hand, he could be rusty, but also he could be healthy, and is he ready to go? You also worry about hamstring re-aggravating it, but I'll put some stock into the opponent that he's facing. Kyler Murray, over 26.5 rushing yards. I think it's a pizza money play to put $5 on that over. The Falcons, they allowed 7 rushes for 66 yards against Dobbs last week. They gave up 2 rushing attempts for 11 yards to Jaren Hall. So they gave up 77 rushing yards overall, and we have seen a little bit of movement toward the Cardinals, believe it or not. They're plus 2.5. They're down to 2. They're only getting 30% of bets. So I'll take a shot on Murray to go over that number, and actually kind of like, if you tease them up especially, take the Cards up a little bit.
I mean, here's the thing, Jeff. When Murray plays, the Falcons defense at least has proved the past 2 weeks that it does not respond well to quarterback curveballs.
It may not respond well to anything. It just may not be that good. And I'm with Josh here. It's obviously a situation where there's a lot of unknowns. There's a new coach for Kyler too. How much are they even going to let him run because of because coming off the big knee injury? Obviously, those are all serious concerns. But at the same time, you have an elite player. You have a team that, in my opinion, is on the verge of cratering. They may fire their coach if they lose this game. I like going Kyler Murray over 1.5 passing touchdowns. It's plus 170. So first of all, we're not paying like minus 140 for a bunch of juice. This can be a small investment. The Falcons have allowed multiple passing touchdowns in 3 of their last 4 games. You just mentioned Josh Dobbs. They allowed a guy to come in off the street and throw 2 passing touchdowns and win the game in like less than a full game, obviously. So I think Kyler could get this done. I think plus 170 is pretty appealing here against Atlanta.
All right, Josh. George Pickens, he wants the ball in Pittsburgh. Believe he wiped out like all Steelers references on the social media pages. Love a good social media meltdown, right? Mike Tomlin's not worried about the drama, though, on social, but should bettors be? Would you chase or fade Pickens against the Packers this weekend?
Seems chalky, but I'll fade Pickens. I just don't like it when you're on a winning team and you're complaining about your targets. Obviously, this is the Keyshawn Johnson, throw me the darn ball kind of thing. You have a lot of divas here when it comes to NFL wide receivers. The weird thing is he still is getting targeted. I mean, he's popped off saying he's not getting the ball. He had 5 targets last week, only caught 2 passes. 5 targets the week before, caught 1 pass. 8 targets, 10, 7, 6, 10, 7. I mean, he is getting targeted. He's just not making plays and not connecting. Obviously, that maybe is a downgrade or kind of a more of a critique there on Kenny Pickett and the quarterbacks here that have played for the Steelers. But also Deontay Johnson. Him coming back, I think, hurts Pickens in this spot. I'll go under the 3.5 catches. It's juiced minus 145. Interestingly, 42.5 receiving yards is minus 115 both sides, but that under 3.5 catches is really juiced up. I think he gets 3 or less. I'll go under 3.5 Pickens.
All right, Jeff, he had minus 2 yards receiving last week. That's when all this social media stuff started happening. He started unfollowing players and coaches. Maybe Mike Tomlin doesn't want to lose any more followers and says, okay, I got to get Pickens the football.
I mean, who doesn't love a good social media wipe? It's just, you know, it's a classic NFL wide receiver diva move.
Yep.
Look, I mean, I'll be the sucker here to buy into George Pickens. I mean, I've just seen this movie too many times. Every year, there's some kind of wide receiver drama. I didn't get the ball. He threw it to me in the wrong direction or something. The coach looked at me poorly, and then he makes a big deal about it on social media. The next week, he gets like 10 targets, and he goes over all his props. Here's the thing about George Pickens, too. He's gone over 42.5 yards. He went over it in 6 of 8 games last year. He's gone over it in 4 of 8 games. So he's had a 62% hit rate over his last 16 games of going over this really low total. This is a very low total for a guy like George Pickens, who routinely catches 20-plus yard passes. So, I mean, I'm going to go over the 42.5. Again, it does feel like, I'm just getting suckered into this narrative. But I do think that Mike Tomlin is a player's coach. And players' coaches tend to just gravitate towards, let's just placate George Pickens for a week here and throw him the ball like 8 times so he'll shut up. So I'm going to go over this one. I do think historically it's kind of in our favor as well to go over.
All right, Jeff, we have more wide receiver drama in Cincinnati, but we're talking on the field, though. It's on the field. Okay. It's because of injuries. Like right when this offense starts rounding in the form, Jamar Chase gets banged up during the game last week after taking a hit. T. Higgins is not going to play. He pulled a hamstring on Wednesday. What props would you chase in the Bengals passing game this weekend?
So this one's interesting because we don't have like a full plethora of props outlet. Like we don't have Trenton Irwin props. We don't have Tyler Boyd props out yet. And when they do, I think I'll be very interested in potentially going over on Tyler Boyd, but obviously we don't know the number. I think the other thing that you can look to here is potentially, looking at fading Joe Burrow just passing totals. I mean, he's at 275.5. I could see the Bengals here, this just being, the defense just taking over and them running the ball with Joe Mixon a little bit more, short passing game with Joe Mixon a little bit more. I think everyone is sort of on Houston because of what happened last week. I don't think that's going to happen at all in Cincinnati. I think it's going to be a more muted game, in my opinion. So I think under Burrow passing yards is something you could look at, but I'm personally waiting to see those wide receiver props drop on Boyd and guys like Trenton Irwin and seeing if we can go maybe over on one of those.
So wait and see spot for you?
I think so, and the books are telling you that they don't really know how to, post this game. Jeff just mentioned that you're looking for all these wide receivers over-unders. They're not on the board yet, so I think this is kind of a tough spot for the sports book as well. I would just mention, Houston does look pretty sharp tomorrow. They open as high as like +8. They're down to 6.5. Some books are down to 6. 75% of bets are on Cincy, yet the line is going to Houston. I know Cincy will probably be a very popular teaser, 6.5, 6 down to just have to win the game. But I'll kind of go the other way and kind of bet against Joe Mixon, Emerson, because Joe Mixon's rushing prop is 65.5. The under is minus 130. So my thought process is, number one, Houston, believe it or not, has the 10th best rushing defense in the NFL. They're only giving up 97 yards a game. But if Burrow has a lot of these wideouts out, maybe it's a little bit easier to key on the run. Maybe it's a harder, tougher time for Mixon. So I'd look at leaning Mixon under 65.5 yards.
All righty. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate the help. Jeff, thank you so much. We will be having our eyes on Tampa Bay tomorrow because Tennessee now, Mike Vrabel has named Will Levis the starter for the rest of the season, no matter how healthy Ryan Tannehill will be. So the Titans aiming for their first road victory of the year in South Florida. Tomorrow we have one more break to go, followed by our final block of the show, No Sweat Bets, and we'll see which systems you're keeping an eye on to help you place some successful bets on the DK Sportsbook. Final block of a Saturday morning edition of The Sweat. Emerson Lazia, Julian Edlow, Josh Applebaum. Let's bring it home. We are all systems go, baby. So right now, we're going to take a gander at maybe some of the systems, DK Sportsbook, over on VSiN. Try to help people build some money-making bets here, positive bets. We want to be in the green, Jules.
Yeah.
Let's recap some of our college football plays, at least up to this point in the show. Maybe a couple we didn't get to yet as well.
Oregon green.
Mm-hmm. You look great rolling in with your Oregon quarters up. Josh, which systems which games are fitting some of these systems today?
Yeah, so let's start off with, in terms of systems, just the straight up contrarian angle, betting against the public. More often than not, the public loses. We all know the house always wins. Trying to go against the most heavily bet games of the most lopsided percentages is just a basic starting point for me, Emerson. So two biggest games of the day. We talked about Penn State and Michigan. Penn State currently only getting 26% of bets. Most heavily bet game of the day. You talk to a lot of odds makers and sports books, and they'll tell you this handle is ridiculous on this game. By far and away, the most heavily bet game of the day. When you're going contrarian, you want to focus on the games with the most public bias, the most public action. So just the fact that Penn State's only getting a quarter of bets, that's an angle worth looking at. Also, waiting on Harbaugh, this line is still 4.5 for Emerson.
Speaking of that,
you got an update for me?
The team bus just rolled up a few minutes ago. Jim Harbaugh was not with the team as it arrived to Beaver Stadium to face Penn State today.
So no Harbaugh. Always over to the game if a judge says otherwise.
That is very true. Maybe he's just kind of sitting there keeping an eye on Twitter or X and seeing what the judge will decide to do with the restraining order against the conference and its commissioner.
So that's something obviously we're going to monitor over the next couple hours here. How will that move on the news of Harbaugh? But on the theme of just going contrarian, we also talked to Kentucky. They're only getting 17% of bets. But Emerson, one that is near and dear to your heart is UCF.
Oh, talk to me here.
Yeah, we were talking about this one earlier, and it just doesn't make a ton of sense that UCF, isn't that great this year, yet the line is only 2.5. UCF is actually only getting 19% of bets in this one. So everyone and their mother is going Oklahoma State here, thinking it's an easy upset win. But the thing that kind of is notable to me is that at one point, this was Oklahoma State -3. You're down to 2.5 at some shops. So it's kind of been back and forth. That tells me that around the key number of 3, there's at least a little respect for UCF. So again, public season, easy layup with the Cowboys here. But UCF Emerson would be a bet against the public play. It's a 3:30 game. Hold out for the 3 if you're going to hold your nose and take UCF.
Jules proceeded with caution there with UCF, buddy.
Yeah, I don't have many thoughts on the game. Exactly. I don't have many thoughts on the game. This is the perfect game to talk about the market, like Josh just did. So this would have to be a UCF +3 or pass for me. It's going to be a pass for me. I'm not betting this game.
No.
If you made me, I would have to take your UCF Knights, Emerson.
Your bankroll's all on Oregon. You got nothing left to play today. Yeah.
Correct.
Buddy, welcome to the party. Let's look ahead a little bit.
I'm just kind of buttering you up in case I need to sleep on that couch.
Yeah, it's a new couch too. It's so hard. You can help break it in.
Very nice.
Let's look ahead to tomorrow here and what we're seeing from some bets and handle splits in the NFL. Josh, what stand out to you right now?
Yeah, so a couple really lopsided plays looking at tomorrow. One that I'll kind of lean on in particular would be Houston. Mentioned Houston earlier in the segment here with Jeff, but Houston Texans are only getting like 24-25% of bets. Everybody is going with Cincinnati here. Obviously, Burrow's playing much better. They're kind of looking like the old Bengals we've seen from the last few years, so getting their mojo going right now. But a lot of injuries to these wide receivers. Where is Burrow going to go? Obviously, he's a great quarterback, so probably make do without them. But we have seen an adjustment toward Houston. You saw this one open. Cincinnati as high as -8. Now it's down to 6.5 or even 6. Obviously, you want to get the hook there. They end up losing by 6. You want to cover that number. But Houston would be a contrarian play. And then Emerson, one other that kind of caught my eye. It's a little bit public. I don't love it in terms of percentage play, but I do like the Detroit Lions quite a bit tomorrow. This is a big rest versus tired advantage. The Lions are off a bye. Chargers are on a short week. This is the biggest rest versus tired mismatch you're going to see all year long, most likely. Team off a bye versus team on a short week. Detroit flipped from a dog to a favorite at the Chargers. They were like getting a point at one point. Now they flipped all the way to -3. You mentioned systems, though, Emerson. Favorites off a bye, especially road favorites off a bye. That's been a really good angle. It's about 64% against the spread the last decade, and Dan Campbell is fantastic covering numbers. 6-2 ATS this year, 29-13 ATS in his career, 69%. So that's one where even though I am with quote-unquote public I don't want to be with, I think you also have Sharps going with Detroit tomorrow as well.
Yeah, the Lions offense going to be at full strength, Jules. Also, that's a good traveling crowd for Detroit. A strong fan base with the Lions. The Chargers never have a home field advantage.
Bring them back to San Diego. Get out of LA.
Never.
Anything you'd like to add to Josh's points with the systems?
I think we could see some points in that game, even with a tired Chargers team, as Josh said. I do lean to the Lions, and they got beat down by Baltimore recently as well. They're kind of working back up. They have Minnesota making some noise now in the division. I think there are a lot of reasons to like the Lions in that one and points in that game.
A lot of reasons to subscribe to VSiN Pro, right, Josh?
Absolutely. Great plug there by my guy Emerson. And Michael Lombardi's coming up next.
I can thank Drew for saying that, Mike.
Yeah, we got Brent Musburger later today. I'll throw one more split at you, Emerson. And again, when you become a member at VSiN, VSiN.com/splits, bookmark that page. All these numbers I'm giving to you are available to you. And again, I'm not going to say every percentage is going to win or want to fade them, but it's just a tool you want to utilize to help you make a smart bet. Just throw this at you, Emerson. I like the Colts money line tomorrow.
Oh.
Patriots are only getting 31% of bets. Is there any way, Julian or Emerson, that the Patriots play well and cover that number? That would be a contrarian play, but international favorites have done very well.
I'm out on the Pats.
I'm out. I didn't bet on them last week, but I tried to make the argument against Steve and Josh that maybe it's a good spot for them at home against Washington. And somehow the Washington defense that trades away their 2 pass rushers looks like the 85 Bears going up against Mac Jones and company. I'm with Josh. Last week, if we were doing no sweat bets, at the beginning of the show, it would have been Kansas City money line for me, but that game kicked off before the end of the show. This week, if we were doing Sunday no sweat bets before the show was over, it would be the Colts on the money line.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. We do have Saturday no sweat bets coming up here in just a moment, like 2 minutes. But over on the DK Sportsbook, we also have some really great betting systems that I feel like better, especially if you're new to this whole realm. Like, definitely take advantage of these kind of things. Like, we have a few AFC underdogs against the NFC this week. So 7-4-1 here in the last 4 weeks. Got 3 matches this week. So we're talking Jacksonville, Tennessee, Chargers. Does this system play this week, Josh?
I think it does. Emerson, you're going to like this. I like your Jags +3 tomorrow.
I know you do, baby, because you're smart and you know what you're talking about, unlike someone else at this desk, and I'm not talking to me.
I already know. This system is no-go this week. We already said we like the Lions over the Chargers. Obviously, San Francisco, arguably the best team in the NFL, coming off 3 straight losses and a bye, getting healthy, is going to go to Jacksonville and whoop up on a team that is getting overhyped due to recent results. We know that. So there's 2 out of 3 right there. The system's a no-go. Tennessee, Tampa, I don't have much of a feel for, but Tampa is taking sharp money in that game. I would not be surprised if this trend goes 0-3. System, whatever you want to call it.
You realize every time that you have bet against like the Jags this season,
I bet against both teams.
It's completely bit you in the rear end, dude. You're an absolute wet fart. Josh.
I bet against them both international games.
Josh, tell me, as the smarter analyst on this desk, why you like Jacksonville +3 this weekend.
A bit of a line freeze play, just in terms of, it's 2.5, 3, hasn't moved off a 3. Now, it is juiced up a little bit, -3, -115 to San Fran. So
to 3.5 on Sunday.
Wait and get the hook if you do like Jacksonville here. But also, San Fran, I don't know. They got a lot of injuries. I want to relook at that injury report. I think it's a good opportunity to back Jags. Trevor Lawrence, Emerson, I know you love this stat. You say this stat every night before you go to bed. He's 4-1 ATS as a home dog since 2022. So he covers numbers,
talking to yourself again. And pretty soon I'll be talking to Julian, screaming out of my bedroom with Julian sleeping on my couch after Oregon loses today. Let's get to no sweat bets. Jules, lead us off here, baby. Come on, what are we cooking?
I mean, Oregon, of course. That's where we're going. That's the play of the day. Oregon team total. You can get. I don't want to go to the 47. I bet it at 44.5 early in the week. It's -115 to the 47.5. I want 47 as a landing number just in case. So I think it's -125 for over 46.5. We'll double down on whatever it is. 23.5 I think is the first half. Add them both. There's 2 no sweat bets right there. Highly correlated. Oregon, like I said, they're going to get going. They're going to put their foot on the gas early against this USC defense, and they're going to keep it there. Is USC going to keep up? Maybe. They have Caleb Williams. They could stay in the game. I'm not convinced that Oregon necessarily covers, but they're going to win at home. They're probably going to get past 50 in this game.
All right, Josh, take us home, homie.
So I'm going to give you the lowest total since 1995, and we're still going under, Emerson. That's my bet here. Rutgers, Iowa, under 27.5. You might have targeted this earlier in the week. It was as high as 30. I jumped on at 28.5 earlier this week. But I think this is one of those games where you see it all the time. It's so low, it's got to go over. Like you see a baseball bet, total 6.5, got to fly over. But this is a game that screams like 13 to 10, 10 to 7 to me.
4 to 2 Iowa.
Okay.
That would work for me.
I don't know how you get
love
4,
that.
a couple safeties
Dude,
there.
yeah,
That's
that's three safety.
That's
dude.
doable.
Three safety
Doable.
game.
Give me the under, low total game there.
All right, guys, good stuff. Before we go, a very happy birthday to our most loyal viewer, producer Drew's cat, Wilford. She's a big fan of the show. Today's edition of The Sweat was dedicated to her. She's still alive. We don't know for how much longer. We hope everyone out there watching has a great
Generally,
day.
people celebrating their birthday
Including
are alive.
you, Wilford. Yes, we love you.